All right, so let's talk about character. This is from an overview of chapter 4 in your Norton's Introduction to Literature. So, character is any personage in a literary work who acts, appears, or is referred to as playing a part in the work, right? So characters are the people in the stories. They might be animals, they might be vampires, they might be dinosaurs, depending on the genre. So there's whoever populates the story, whether human or non human, is the character in the story. And so when we're looking at literature and we're thinking about how to talk about literature and analyze it, we have to look at the characters. And so in real life, we make assumptions about people before we know them. You know, we ask their names, we observe what they're wearing, what they're doing, what they're saying, and we think we know something about them through those observations. You do the same thing with characters in a book, story, film, or play. You make assumptions about them through the ways the author presents them, right? And so there are two kind of major categories in terms of character presentation. One is called the direct methods of character presentation. That's the name. So just like in the story recitative that you're reading for this week, what do we think we know about a person named Twyla? What does that name tell us? How, what about Roberta? Names can place us in terms of our age, where we were born, where our parents were born, um, within what kind of society, right? Names are very telling. So a name is one way that the author presents a character. Physical description is another way. For example, in recitative, when the woman is described, the kitchen woman with legs like parentheses, that not only shows us what the woman looks like, but Morrison uses very distinct language. What is that? What's within? What are parentheses? How do they act within punctuation? What could she be mean? What else could she be meaning when she talks about that, or when she uses that type of language? The objects and places that are associated with the character. 2 acres, 4 maybe, of these little apple trees, right? When we talk about apples and we talk about trees, we can start thinking about what kind of symbolism are we getting from that? What do these objects really represent? What might they represent that's not on the page? Action. What are the characters doing? I stood up first and spilled the jelly beans all over the floor, right? What might jelly beans represent? What might the spilling of them off of her lap represent? Right? So all of these are direct methods of character presentation. Thoughts and speech, what the characters think and what the characters say. I think we were wrong. I think she could hear and didn't let on, right? And so we get, when we start talking about character voice and what age the character is, what part of the country they're from, what country they're from, what their socioeconomic status is, if they're highly educated or barely educated. All of that we can get through thoughts and speech and the rest of these things, okay? So we have 5 direct methods of character presentation. We have the names, we have the physical description, we have the objects and places associated with the characters, we have the things the characters do, the action, and then we have their thoughts and their speech. There's also indirect methods of character presentation. And one of those is how other characters think and speak about the character you're looking at. You're the same little state kid who kicked a poor old black lady when she was down on the ground. The narrator's comments about the character. Roberta promised to write every day, which was really sweet of her because she couldn't read a lick, so how could she write anybody? Right? And so you have the 2 different indirect methods of character presentation. So all of these are ways that we can begin to get to know these characters and kind of get under not just what they literally do, but what might all of this mean figuratively or might be a symbol for. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the types of characters. Um, in the past, or they used to have kind of very clear like heroes and villains. You have the good guy and the bad guy, and sometimes in certain genres, you still have those very clear cut archetypes or types of characters that this is the hero, they're always going to do the right thing, and then you have the bad guy who's always going to do the wrong thing, right? It's Batman is the hero and the Joker is the villain, and that's just how they exist within that universe. But for most literature, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You don't just have a hero and a villain, right? You also, especially in contemporary literature, you have what's called a protagonist and an antagonist, or maybe an antagonizing force. It doesn't necessarily need to be another character. So the protagonist is basically just the main character. A protagonist is neither good or bad, um, or inherently evil or sweet. They can be all those things. Your protagonist can really be a villain if in some literature, right? And so the antagonist is the person that opposes. So if the person is not so nice, maybe the person who's antagonizing them is someone who is very sweet and nice. It's just the person that opposes the protagonist, right? Okay. So there are also different ways that we talk about characters, or the language, right? You can have a flat character. Flat characters are simple or one-dimensional characters. They're very closely related to stock characters. Stock characters are almost always flat characters, right? They're stereotypical and they're one-dimensional. It's the it is like the sweet school teacher, um, or the jolly the jolly fat baker, right? Stock characters that we see these characters over and over and over, and so they become stereotypes, and they don't really change. They just are there. They hold that spot, and they don't move or change. Well, then you have round characters who are very complex, right, and multifaceted. That they do present several different sides, and we don't just see them in one way. We see them in several different ways. Okay, and then you have static characters. Those are characters. Static means to stay still. So static characters are characters that just don't move. They start in one place and they end in one place. And that it can be literal or figurative, right? It can just be like they are just um, they start out mean and they end mean. They start out sweet and they end sweet. Nothing changes in that character through the novel or the short story or the play. And then you have dynamic characters, which change the. We're really kind of reading the story to see what kind of changes happen. These are characters that actually make a real substantial change in their lives or their way of looking at the world, or whatever kind of conflict they came up in the beginning of the story. By the end of the story, it has changed them. Another term that we talk about in terms of archetypes are characters that we've seen several times before, characters that recur in the myths and literature of many different ages and cultures. Okay, so we got some of the language in terms of understanding what round characters are, what dynamic characters are, what flat characters are, what archetypes are. And now we want to talk about kind of how do we analyze characters? How do we kind of read a story like Recitative, and we look at Twyla and Roberta and try to figure out what's going on in this story? What is the subtext? What is being revealed through the lives of these two women? So some of the questions we can ask a text is, what motivates the character or characters? What's the character's internal conflict? What lesson does the character learn by the end of the story? What larger points might the author be raising or illustrating through each character? And what that means is sometimes we look at a character, we look at a story with two women in it, and we want to make assumptions about what Morrison might be arguing about race in a larger form, what she might be arguing about gender. And so we want to connect what's in the book to maybe something that's outside of the book in terms of some sort of theory, race theory, or gendered theory, to kind of see what might be hidden in the subtext. And so we kind of figure that out by looking at, okay, what lesson does the character learn by the end of the story? What does Roberta know that she didn't know before? What does Twyla know that she didn't know before? So which of the characters does the text encourage us to sympathize or admire? Which of the characters does the text seem to be encouraging us to view negatively? And why do you think that is? Okay, and so this is a way to kind of start looking at this short story in terms of figuring out what is going on with it, right? What are some of the things that stood out to you while you were reading the story? How are you going to kind of start your papers and start thinking about Twyla and Roberta and what Morrison was trying to do by writing both of these characters? Okay, so that's it for this one, and let me know if you have any questions.